Secretary Mr. Becerra, thank you for taking the time to speak with Latino News Network. As a former congressman, attorney general here in California, and cabinet member, now running for governor, you're entering this race at a pivotal moment for California and also for Latino voters across the state. Since the American conquest of California, only one Latino, Romualdo Pacheco, in 1875, has served as governor. What would it mean to you personally and historically to become the first Latino elected to that office in nearly 150 years?
It means a great deal because it shows that if you work hard, you apply yourself, and you play by the rules, you can get ahead. And to become the governor of the state of California, the fourth largest economy in the world, it means more than you could just get ahead. It means you can bring a lot of people with you. And so if I can open doors for that next construction worker and clerical worker to be able to dream those big dreams, that's what's going to count. So we want all the young people who are getting their first chance to know that this is what they can expect to do as leaders for California in the future.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Becerra, you were talking about how big California is, how the economy of California is. With Donald Trump, we want to talk about your vision for California. With Donald Trump back in the White House, how do you see California's role under your leadership, and how would your vision challenge or differ from Trump's national agenda?
Well, we're going to continue to be a leader. We're going to continue to be a fighter, and we're going to continue to be a vision of what can be in the United States. It'll be a different vision from the one that the current president has provided to the American people. It's going to be a different way of abiding by the law. It's going to be a different way of respecting families who work hard, and it's going to be a better way. And it's not something new. I don't say this just because I seek or aspire to be the next governor. I say it because I went through this when I was Attorney General for California, when Trump was president the first time. And I had to take him on to show that while the state of California will work with the federal government, our largest partner, in every way we can, we'll also stand up to the federal government when it overreaches, when it violates the law, when it tries to punish our families who are simply working hard, when it tries to dictate to us how we will do California work, how we will do California policy. And so we will be able to take on that mighty giant in Washington, D.C. And I say that because I did take him on, and I won. We ended up having to sue Donald Trump over 120 times when I was Attorney General. Most of those cases we won. We were able to defend California, its values, and its people. We'll do it again.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Becerra, if elected governor, what would be the 3 top priorities for California? And also, how would you navigate that those potential conflicts with the Trump administration that you were also mentioning before?
Alex, I don't know, for example, if you are a homeowner, if you are owning the place where you are right now, but I will tell you that the biggest way that any family generates wealth, unless you're born into wealth, but the biggest way you generate wealth in this country and in most places around the world is by owning your assets. And no bigger asset that most families will have than their home. And so I want housing to be the principal priority that I, as governor, will focus on, to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to own the biggest asset and develop that wealth that lets them provide so much more to their children and their families in the future. I want young people today to know that they can do what my parents, who never got to college, were able to do, what I've been able to do, and that is to be able to become a homeowner and hold on to that home and gain the equity in that house. So housing will be my top priority. Second from there, I just finished as Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, the largest health agency in the world. We just finished pulling America out of that pandemic when we got 700 million vaccine shots into the arms of Americans throughout the country, never charging a penny, never asking people what their income, their zip code, or their status was so that they get those vaccines. And we pulled out of the pandemic. And I was able to negotiate lower drug prices as the Secretary of Health and Human Services for the first time in history. And so I want to be California's healthcare governor. I want to take everything I've worked on and learned over the years, from helping draft and pass the Affordable Care Act as a congressman, to having defended the Affordable Care Act as the Attorney General for California, all the way to the Supreme Court and beating Donald Trump when we defended the Affordable Care Act. And of course, as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, where we broke records in setting new historic numbers of Americans who have access to health insurance, principally using the Affordable Care Act. And so all of those things combined, let me become the next governor for the state of California who will protect healthcare. So in California, we will not go backwards simply because Washington is taking away $1 trillion out of our healthcare through the Medicaid program.
Mm-hmm. And Governor, just recently your campaign launched a Spanish language TikTok account beyond social media, or if you can explain a little bit about that initiative, but also beyond social media, how are you planning to reach these California multilingual and multicultural voters from Latino to Asian American, Pacific Island communities throughout the state?
Alex, if I could, I would do my TikTok and social media in English, in Espanol, and in every language I could. I wish I were more than bilingual. So many parts of the world, bilingual is just par for the course. So many people know multi-languages. And in America, you're fortunate if you know 2 languages. Well, I'm fortunate that I can speak English and Spanish, and I'm going to take full advantage of that because I want everyone in California that I can reach to know that I want them to get valuable information. I want them to know that they can communicate with me. And if I can do that well in Spanish, I will get out there and do it every time I have an opportunity. Y por eso estamos en este momento comunicando también en español. And so we hope to reach as many people as possible in California. And I'm proud that I'm able to communicate with those folks who use Spanish as a principal language, or even if they don't use it as a principal, but who love to also engage in Spanish as well.
Mr. Becerra, gracias. It's great. Está genial poder escucharle en español también. We were talking about California's economy, and it's true, it remains strong, but inequality is also one of the most pressing matters among voters, and especially also among young voters. This inequality keeps widening. How would your administration make sure that prosperity also reaches rural, working class, immigrant communities, not just the coasts or tech hubs that we also have in California?
And so one of the best ways we can address that inequality is by giving people stability, peace of mind. That's where being able to reach people and get them in their own home, they can establish themselves and have their asset and build their wealth. That gives you peace of mind. Having access to health insurance coverage means you don't have to worry if your child gets sick. You don't have to pray that they'll get better. You don't have to wait till they get so sick that you can't wait any longer and now you have to go to the emergency room. If you have health insurance, you can see that doctor early. As my mother would always say to me, "Mijo, es mejor prevenir que remediar." It is always better to prevent than to remediate. It is always much costlier when you do things to try to repair a problem versus try to prevent something from occurring. And so healthcare is one of those where you want to give people access early. And so if I can do the housing, if I can provide the confidence on healthcare, and if I can build a confidence that people will be safe because the streets will be safe, it'll be, you won't have to worry about being attacked at night. Public safety is a great way to build confidence. If people feel that they're in their community and they can grow and thrive and they can let their kids play outside, they can walk to school, you can drive home without fear of being attacked. All those things coming together really build confidence. And if I can build confidence, then I think I can give people a true sense that they can aspire to do well in the state of California, equally with anyone else, that they will get to share the benefits of what California produces. That's the best way to fight inequality, is giving people access, getting them through the door, in having their own home, and having their confidence in having their health care, and making sure they live in communities that are safe so they can raise their families.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Becerra, we have 3 more questions to go over. The first one, we stay with the younger voters. Young Californians have literally grown up in an era of deep political division, from Obama to Trump, and now again under his presidency, after Biden's presidency. What's your message to those first-timers and first-generation voters who, probably feel and research show that they feel more alienated from politics than previous generations?
This is a time that we need all hands on deck, as they say. We can't afford to have anyone sitting on the sidelines. And young people in this country have really been whiplashed. They've seen the pandemic. They've seen what a rogue government in Washington, D.C. looks like. They've seen what the chaos can mean for them. They are witnessing as people are losing their health care. They are watching as this president focuses on making money in cryptocurrency instead of trying to reduce the cost of groceries and healthcare. And they understand that these are tough times. But the good thing about our situation today is that young people now know what it can be like if we let things go downhill. And this is where, as I said, we need all hands on deck. Everyone has to be prepared to fight for their rights, fight for their opportunity, fight for their equality. This is not a time to be shy. This is not a time to be a spectator. And you will have lived through some very challenging times, whether it's the man-made disasters coming out of Washington, D.C., or the natural disaster we faced with the COVID pandemic. Either way, we have to deal with these disasters. And so you are equipped because of your experiences to now take us forward as you become the leaders of this country, because you know what bad times can look like. And so I would just simply say to all those young Americans, take these lessons as you go through them. And remember, every generation has had to do that. My parents, my father would tell me of the days when he was a young man. And again, this is a man who got to the 6th grade. He had to start working because he was the oldest of 8 children. But he would tell me the stories of when he was a young man working, where he'd see the signs outside the establishments, the restaurants and other places that said, no dogs, Negroes, or Mexicans allowed. Those are challenging times. We don't see those signs anymore, but we certainly do see challenges for our communities, whether it's because of the attacks on immigrants, whether it's the attacks on people who try to speak in Spanish, whether it's the attack on people who are not that well educated. We have to fight for our rights. We have to fight for our equality. And this is the time to stand up, because you can see, you're experiencing what it's like when times are tough and people are attacking you. And if you're able to build out of this, you'll be strong, really effective leaders. That's what I always tell the dreamers who are in this country, because they know they haven't yet gained their full status. They know that they're always in jeopardy. They know that their families are also at risk, but they keep fighting, and they're going to make some of the greatest leaders our country has seen once everything is addressed, so that they can have their status and be full-fledged Americans here in this country.
Mr. Becerra, the last couple of questions, if time allows. California in the last decade has often positioned itself as a counterweight to Washington, D.C. If elected, what kind of leader should we expect? Would you be in this political moment? Would it be a bridge builder? Would it be a challenger? Something in between? What Californians can expect from a possible Governor Becerra?
Well, they can certainly expect that Governor Becerra, that I will be a builder. I'm ready to build bridges, but I'm ready to build homes. I'm ready to build better water infrastructure. I'm ready to build a better transportation system. I'm ready to make sure energy is affordable for all Californians. I will build. It's in my blood. My dad was a construction worker. I too worked as a construction worker to help pay for my college. And so one thing that I will be is a builder. The second thing I will tell you is that we will stand up. I've learned over the years how to stand up. I've learned what it means when you don't have everything handed to you. I've learned what it means when you have to fight and earn it, as my parents did, and as I did as I was making my way as the first in my family to go on to university, and then to run for office and get elected. And now, of course, the challenge of becoming the next governor. So I will take all of those challenges that I've been able to overcome and win, and say to Californians, you're going to have a governor who knows how to overcome and win. I have built, I will overcome, and I will deliver. And the final part of that, the delivering, is so important because everyone as a candidate for political office will make promises. How do you know if they can deliver on those promises? I always tell folks, if you want to know where a leader will take you, know where they've come from. And I've told you about my background growing up in a union home, a son of immigrants, first in my family to have an opportunity to succeed in college. I will also tell you, I have run some of the largest public enterprises in the world. I have balanced the budgets that are larger than the budget of the state of California. The Department of Health and Human Services has a budget that's not only larger than the state of California, it has a budget that's larger than the U.S. Department of Defense. In fact, it's larger than the U.S. Department of Defense and the state of California budgets combined. And I balanced my budget 4 years while I was Secretary of Health and Human Services. So if you want a leader who's going to not only meet the challenges, who's not only going to build, but will deliver results, look for someone who's actually done it and isn't just saying it.
Mm-hmm. And last question for nuestra gente, Latinos do make up 40% of California's population, but remain underrepresented in politics. How will your campaign connect with those Latino voters, la gente Latina, who feel overlooked or are not very illusioned by politics with both major parties?
Nuestro querido pueblo Latino, I think what we have to be able to say to them is get involved, participate, make sure your vote is counted. That is the surest way to make sure that the representation that you get reflects who you are, what your values are. And if we do that, then let's work together to make sure that we enact policies that benefit people like you, people like my parents who worked very hard, who are of immigrant background, who fought to make sure their kids had more than they had, who believed in this country and its principles, who are embarrassed and against the policies in Washington, D.C. these days by a man who is violating the Constitution, who is treating people like my parents as if they were criminals, and who doesn't respect the rights of states and people in those states. We have to stand up so we have policies that matter to working families. I intend to fight back against any efforts to try to change the values and the people of California from Washington, D.C. I proved it when I was Attorney General that we could fight back and win. And I'm going to make sure that we build, because we have too many families like my parents, that construction worker and that clerical worker, who are hoping to do what my parents did. And I want them to know that when they work in California, they get to buy a home. When they work in California, they'll have their health insurance. When they work in California, they will be able to afford to send their kids to a good college or apprenticeship program or to the military. And when they've done that for decades and they decide it's time to retire, they won't have to go to Idaho or Arizona or Nevada to retire. They'll retire here in California, the way my parents did and the way my wife and I are planning to do.
Okay, Secretary Becerra, muchísimas gracias por su tiempo. Thank you very much for your time. And we will be in touch. All the best and see you next time.
Alex, thank you so much. Muchas gracias.